Awakening the will, understanding the foundations of strength. The path to building a mind so strong it terrifies others begins with a profound awakening, an awakening to your own potential, your own power, and most importantly, your own responsibility. Friedrich Nietzsche, the German philosopher often misunderstood as a mere provocateur, offers a piercing insight into the nature of strength. For Nietzsche, true strength is not about dominance over others, but mastery over oneself. It starts with what he calls the will to power, the fundamental drive that pushes every individual to grow. God, and create the illusion of herd mentality. Most people live their lives bound by the invisible chains of herd mentality, the collective norms, beliefs, and fears that society imposes. Nietzsche referred to this as herd morality, a set of values created to enforce conformity, suppress individuality, and maintain social order. The herd seeks safety in numbers, fearing difference and change. If you want to build a mind so strong, it terrifies others, you must first recognize whether you are part of this herd. Are your beliefs genuinely yours? Or are they inherited from family, friends, culture, or the media? Do you question what you accept, or do you simply follow because it is easier? This is the beginning of your awakening. It's awareness that you have been conditioned that your mind is not yet free is the first crack in the cage. The will to power. More than just dominance, Nietzsche's famous phrase. The will to power is often misunderstood. It does not simply mean a lust for control or domination over others. Rather, it is the internal force that drives you to become more than you are, to push beyond your limitations, to create and assert your own values, and to shape your life. Intentionally, this will to power is the heartbeat of strength. It is a force that compels you to face challenges rather than avoid them, to grow through suffering rather than crumble beneath it. In this stage, your goal is to awaken this will, to nurture it, listen to it, and make it the foundation of your mindset. Brutal honesty. Confronting your weaknesses' strength begins with honesty. Brutal. It's unflinching honesty about who you are and where you stand. Nietzsche believed that many people are trapped in self-delusion, pretending to be stronger or wiser than they truly are. To build a terrifyingly strong mind, you must confront your fears, insecurities, and limitations without excuses. This is uncomfortable. It can be painful. But this confrontation is the only way to break free from the illusions that weaken you. Ask yourself, what fears control my decisions? What habits keep me stuck? Or am I hiding from discomfort? By answering these questions honestly, you begin to dismantle the mental barriers that hold you back. The role of discipline and daily habits awakening the will is not a one-time event, but a process. And that process requires discipline. Discipline is often mistaken for rigidity or punishment, but Nietzsche saw it as a tool for freedom. Like the disciplined bodybuilder who sculpts muscle through repeated effort, the disciplined mind is forged through consistent, intentional practice. Start small. Incorporate daily habits that challenge you. Wake up early to claim the day. Pursue knowledge relentlessly by reading or learning. Face social fears by engaging rather than avoiding. Practice physical exercise to strengthen your body and mind. Connection. Each act of discipline is a vote for your own strength. Over time, these small victories build momentum, reinforcing your will, rejecting victimhood, owning your power. One of the greatest obstacles to a strong mind is the temptation to play the victim, blaming circumstances, other people, or fate for your shortcomings. Nietzsche condemned this mentality as weak and corrosive. Instead, you must cultivate radical ownership over your life. This means accepting full responsibility for your thoughts, emotions, and actions, regardless of external conditions. It does not mean ignoring hardship or injustice, but refusing to let them define or limit you. This shift from victim to owner is a cornerstone of mental strength. When you own your power, you reclaim agency. And with agency comes the ability to shape your destiny, the courage to stand. Alone awakening your will often means standing apart from the crowd. As Nietzsche famously said, one must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. This chaos is the tension between your inner truth and the external pressures to conform. To build a mind that terrifies others, you must develop the courage to stand alone, to face criticism or rejection without crumbling. This courage does not come naturally. It is cultivated through experience. Each time you resist the pull of conformity and live authentically, your courage grows. Stronger embracing individuality. Individuality is not a luxury. It is a necessity for strength. Nietzsche believed that greatness comes from embracing your unique qualities rather than imitating others. This means developing your own set of values, beliefs, and goals that resonate deeply with who you are. Your mind becomes strong because it is authentic, because it is not a copy but an original. The first spark of fearlessness, as you awaken your will, confront your weaknesses, and embrace discipline and individuality, you experience the first spark of true fearlessness. This is not reckless bravado, but a deep-seated confidence. Born from self-awareness and self-mastery, others will begin to sense this strength, even if they do not understand it. This fearlessness is unsettling to people who are still tied to their insecurities and need for approval. Summary: the foundation of a terrifyingly strong mind. Awaken your will to power. Recognize the internal force driving growth. Confront your fears and weaknesses. Honestly, no more self-delusion. Build discipline through daily habits. Small actions create momentum. Reject victimhood. Own your life fully. Stand courageously alone. Resist herd mentality. Embrace your individuality. Create your unique path. Feel the first spark of fearlessness, the beginning of true mental strength. Reflection exercise to begin your journey. Reflect on these questions. What areas of your life are ruled by fear or conformity? What small daily habit can you start today to challenge your comfort zone? How can you take ownership of your thoughts and emotions right now? Closing thought: Nietzsche's wisdom calls you not to seek comfort, but to seek power. The power to shape yourself and your world. This power awakens within you as soon as you decide to break free from the herd. Face your inner chaos. Commit to the long path of growth. The mind you are building today is the foundation of a force so strong, so terrifying in its authenticity and will, that others will either follow you in awe or be stopped in their tracks by your presence. Your journey starts now. Overcoming the abyss, embracing struggle and nihilism, you've awakened the will, the fire inside that dares to question, to stand alone, to claim responsibility. But the journey toward a terrifyingly strong mind now takes a darker, more treacherous turn. The second stage is the abyss, a place of internal collapse and disorientation. A confrontation with the unsettling realization that much of what you've believed in may be empty or false. Nietzsche called this confrontation nihilism. The recognition that life holds no inherent meaning, no divine structure, no absolute morality. Most people spend their lives running from this truth, clinging to illusions of safety, religion, or tradition. But if you're serious about forging a mind that others fear and admire, you must do what most won't. You must walk into the abyss willingly. What is the abyss? Nietzsche warns us. He who fights with monsters should look to it that he himself does not become a monster. And if you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you. The abyss is more than depression or despair. It's the moment when all your old beliefs collapse, when you can no longer hide behind comfort or convention. You begin asking questions like, what if there is no ultimate purpose to life? What if morality is just a social construct? What if I must define meaning for myself? These questions shake your foundations, but don't run. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of true strength. The necessity of destruction. Nietzsche. This vision of transformation is not polite or painless. It's brutal. It's about destroying illusions that have kept you weak, comfortable, domesticated. Society conditions us to avoid pain, to numb ourselves with entertainment, religion, consumption. But Nietzsche says, embrace the pain. Destruction is not the enemy. Stagnation is to become something greater. You must shed the skin of your old self, the version of you that chased approval, avoided discomfort, and believed lies just to feel safe. This shedding is terrifying. You may feel lost, untethered. You'll face ridicule. You'll be tempted to return to the herd, to pretend you didn't see the abyss. But if you endure, you push through this spiritual death, you'll emerge reborn, sharper, clearer, more resilient. The choice after meaning dies when traditional meaning dies. You are left with a choice: collapse or create. Nietzsche believed that most people collapse. Without religion, rules, or ready-made purpose, they drift into despair or nihilism. They numb themselves, retreat into passivity. These are the last men Nietzsche warned about: comfortable, cowardly, lifeless. But a rare few do the opposite. When meaning dies, they create new meaning. They become overmen, individuals who rise above herd values to live by their own laws. This is where the terrifying power of the mind begins to take form. You no longer depend on external validation or moral frameworks to define your life. You become the architect, the lawgiver, the judge of your own soul. Embrace suffering as fuel. The abyss will not be kind to you. It will test you with anxiety, isolation, and overwhelming uncertainty. This suffering is not a bug. It's the very crucible in which greatness is forged. Nietzsche didn't just accept suffering. He believed in its necessity. In The Gay Science, he writes, "Only great pain is the ultimate liberator of the spirit." It forces us philosophers to descend into our ultimate depths. Stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" Start asking, "How can this sharpen me?" Use the pain as data, as fuel, as raw material.
Yes.
Every doubt, every failure, every loss becomes part of your weaponry. The danger of becoming cynical: there's a trap in the abyss. Cynicism. You may look around at the world's hypocrisy, the lies people live, and feel tempted to become bitter, detached, superior. Don't fall for it. Nietzsche despised cynicism because it's weakness disguised as insight. Cynicism is still a reaction. It means the world is still controlling your mind. True strength lies in transcendence. Yes, see the lies. Yes, understand the absurdity. But instead of mocking, rise above, laugh, create, lead. A terrifyingly strong mind doesn't sink into darkness. It uses the darkness as a canvas. The power of saying no in this stage, one of your greatest powers, is the ability to say no. No to lies, no to weakness, no to mediocrity, no to inherited values that do not serve your growth. Saying no is not negativity. It is assertion. It is the moment your will begins to define your world. You draw boundaries. You cut away what is false. You eliminate distraction. This makes others uncomfortable. They may call you arrogant, difficult, even cruel. But they fear your clarity. Your refusal to play their games exposes their compromises. Rebuilding from the void once the illusions have burned. This space is not something to fear. It's your blank canvas. Here is where the strong mind begins its creative phase. You decide what is meaningful to you. You invent your own rituals, rules, and principles. You begin to live not to survive, but to express your inner force. This is where others begin to notice something different about you. You speak less, but with more impact. You act decisively. You don't flinch under pressure. You're not easy to understand, and that's what makes your mind intimidating. Practices to embrace the abyss to survive and thrive in this stage. Engage in practices that ground and sharpen you. Journaling, write without filters. Let your darkest thoughts surface. Clarity begins with honesty. Solitude. Spend time alone, not distracted, but with your mind. Learn to befriend your silence. Philosophical reading. Dive into works by Nietzsche, Camus, Dostoevsky. Read minds that have faced the abyss. Physical challenges. Use intense physical activity to anchor you during emotional storms. Strengthen the body, calm the mind, cut weak influences. Walk away from people who fear growth or mock your journey. You are becoming fire as you embrace the abyss. Your mind undergoes alchemical change. You are no longer just someone with thoughts. You are becoming fire. A fire that consumes falsehood. Fire that illuminates your path. A fire that cannot be extinguished by anyone's opinion or approval. You no longer fear chaos. You carry it within and mold it into form. Summary. The abyss. Is the gateway the abyss? Is the confrontation with life's lack of inherent meaning? Most people retreat into illusions or collapse in despair. A strong mind creates new meaning and transcends suffering. Embrace pain as part of your evolution. Not as punishment, but purification. Avoid cynicism. Choose creation over collapse. Practice solitude, discipline, radical honesty. Nietzsche's whispering this chapter. Nietzsche whispers not comfort, but challenge. Become who you are. Not who society told you to be. Not who your parents imagined. Not even who you were yesterday, but who you are becoming in the fire. Someone terrifying, not because you seek to dominate, but because you dare to stand alone, face the abyss, and return with a mind forged in the deepest truth. The art of mastery, cultivating willpower and creativity. You've stood at the edge of the abyss and survived. You've watched meaning collapse, felt the emptiness of illusion, and stared into the void. You did not break. Now comes the rebuilding, the act of creation. Nietzsche believed the highest form of human power is not destruction, but self-mastery and creative expression. The individual who emerges from the abyss is not simply stronger, they are now capable of becoming. This chapter is about developing willpower into focused action and creativity into life-shaping force. It's about mastering yourself, your habits, and your mind, and turning your life into a work of art that commands attention and respect. What is mastery? Mastery isn't perfection. It's not about control over others or eliminating every flaw. Mastery is the ongoing pursuit of excellence, the daily alignment of your behavior with your highest vision. It's about refining your inner world so that your outer world bends to your intention. To Nietzsche, the strong individual doesn't just react to life, they will their path into existence. They do not drift. They direct. This is terrifying. To most people, why? Because mastery eliminates excuses. It rejects comfort. It radiates discipline, clarity, creative willpower, things most have never cultivated. Turning will into action in Chapter 1, you awakened the will to power. But a strong will without execution is just a fantasy. Build a terrifyingly strong mind. Your will must translate into disciplined, consistent action. Nietzsche taught that becoming is a process, a daily, often painful transformation. The will must be trained like a muscle. Each day, you must ask yourself, what action will bring me closer to who I want to be? Start small, but stay consistent. Set early wake times. Eliminate distractions, like mindless scrolling. Stick to a fitness routine. Speak and act with intention. Commit to a daily reading or writing practice. These practices may seem simple, but done daily, they sharpen your focus and clarify your vision. Over time, they forge mental steel. Remember Nietzsche's words, "He who cannot obey himself will be commanded." Mastery begins with obedience to your higher self. Creating yourself as an artist, Nietzsche famously said one must give birth to a dancing star. This is not just poetic, it's practical. To Nietzsche, life itself is an art form, and you are both the artist and the clay. Strong mind doesn't just survive, it creates. It reimagines values, reshapes routines, and rebuilds the self constantly. You're not becoming someone else's idea of success. You're shaping yourself into something entirely new, into your ideal. This act of self-creation takes vision. What do you want your presence to feel like? What values will you live by? What will you build that outlives you? Most people never ask these questions. They live on autopilot. But you're now the sculptor of your life. This creative autonomy is unsettling to others. It exposes their dependence on external structure and praise, discipline and freedom, two sides of one. Blade-weak minds think discipline is slavery. But Nietzsche knew the opposite is true. Discipline is freedom. Without discipline, you are a slave to impulse, fear, and other people's expectations. With it, you are free to build, focus, and command your energy. You can delay gratification for long-term greatness. Discipline also sets boundaries. A strong mind says no often to distractions, temptations, and time wasters. This sharpness terrifies those who are addicted to comfort and chaos. You do not flinch. You do not entertain nonsense. You're becoming a force of will. Focus. The weapon of the modern warrior in an age of digital noise and endless distraction. Focus is a superpower. Nietzsche's overman is not scattered. He is deeply concentrated on his path, his craft, his inner world. While the herd seeks novelty, the strong mind seeks depth. Choose one or two arenas of excellence, your body, your work, your art, and go outland. Study deeply, practice obsessively, refine endlessly. The ability to immerse, to enter a flow state, to block out distraction. This is how empires are built and minds are molded into masterpieces. Focus turns intention into impact. It makes your presence magnetic and your mind untouchable. Mental sovereignty to truly master your mind. You must become mentally sovereign, immune to manipulation, guilt, or emotional hijacking. This doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you own what you feel, you choose your reactions, you respond, you don't react. Nietzsche warns of being seduced by false guilt or shame, tools society uses to tame strong minds. But your moral compass is now internal, self-defined. You don't conform, you decide. This kind of inner freedom is terrifying to people who need others to tell them how to think, what to feel, and who to be. The power of silence, a mastered mind, does not speak constantly. It is deliberate, measured, calm. Silence becomes a weapon, creates mystery. It signals control, it demands respect. Your silence shows that you are not reactive, that you're thinking 10 steps ahead. It lets others reveal themselves, while you observe, speak only when necessary, and when you do, make your words count. This restraint is rare and unnerving to people addicted to noise. Embracing repetition and boredom mastery is not glamorous. It is not exciting. It is built through endless repetition. The gym sessions no one sees. The late nights studying, it's the rewrites, the failures, it's the self-doubt. This is where the real transformation happens. In private, in silence, in boredom. Nietzsche revered this struggle because it separates the strong from the weak. While others quit, you keep going. You refine, you adjust, you repeat. Over time, this gives you something terrifying, predictable power. People can't match your consistency. And that consistency builds momentum they cannot comprehend. Through action at this stage, you no longer seek approval. You act in alignment with your inner vision. Every time you follow through on your word, especially when it's hard, you build self-respect. This respect becomes your armor. It's not bravado. It's not ego. It's certainty. You know who you are. You've tested yourself. You've kept promises others break daily. This inner strength radiates. People feel it. Some admire it. Some fear it, but all recognize it. Summary. From chaos to creation, mastery is not perfection, but alignment of action with intention. Discipline is the path to freedom, not a cage, but a key. Create your life like art with vision, struggle, and beauty. Focus. Is your weapon? Eliminate noise? Seek depth? Mental sovereignty protects your peace. You decide how you think and feel. Repetition builds. Consistency, boring effort, creates terrifying results. Self-respect comes from integrity. Be who you say you are. Nietzsche's challenge. Nietzsche doesn't offer comfort. He offers a mirror. And in that mirror, you see who you could become if you committed fully, ferociously. Become the one you are. This is no slogan. It's a war cry. Because the terrifying mind is not loud or angry. It is focused, disciplined, creative, and most of all, free. You are no longer reacting to the world. You are shaping it. That more than anything is what others fear. The fortress of solitude, building mental independence and resilience. The world is loud. Opinions flood your mind. Notifications demand your attention. Everywhere you turn, someone wants a piece of your time, your energy, your identity. People give it away freely. But if you are to build a mind so strong it terrifies people, you must learn to protect it like a fortress. That fortress is solitude. Nietzsche believed that solitude was not a punishment, but a privileged space, where one could meet themselves, think freely, and become powerful. But solitude, in the Nietzschean sense, is not just physical aloneness. It is the mental independence that allows you to stand firm in your beliefs, choices, and path even when surrounded by noise, pressure, and opposition. This chapter explores how solitude and mental independence forge unbreakable resilience. It is here you become untouchable. Solitude, the birthplace of original thought, Nietzsche wrote. The great epics of our life are the occasions when we gain the courage to rebaptize our evil as our best. You cannot do this in a crowd. You cannot transform yourself when surrounded by people who benefit from your weakness. Solitude is not isolation. It is not loneliness. It is the active withdrawal from distraction and dependency so you can hear your own thoughts, feel your own truth, and shape your own path. The herd fears solitude. That's why they fill their lives with noise, scrolling, gossip, drama, small talk, and endless validation. Silence terrifies them because it confronts them with their emptiness. But you enter the silence and become something else. Why the strong retreat, the strongest minds in history, Nietzsche. Marcus Aurelius, Schopenhauer, Da Vinci spent large portions of their lives in solitude. Not because they were antisocial, but because they refused to be diluted by the crowd. Crowds flatten nuance. The pressure to conform, to agree. To be liked, it seduces the weak and softens their convictions. If your mind is to terrify others, it must be independent. You must learn to think without needing consensus, to speak without craving applause, to live without asking for permission. This kind of self-containment threatens people. It exposes their dependency. Your silence reminds them how noisy and insecure. They are the psychology of the fortress. Imagine. Your mind is a fortress. The outer walls are your boundaries, what you allow in and what you reject. The towers are your clear. Distant from emotional chaos, the inner chamber is your peace, where your principles and thoughts live untouched by the world. To build this fortress, you must become comfortable saying no. No to mindless consumption, no to people who drain. You know, to distractions that chip away at your focus. Every no is a brick in the wall. Every hour of silence is another layer of armor. People will not understand your distance. They will call it coldness, arrogance, or antisocial behavior. Let them. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be unshakable. Self-reliance. The foundation of mental strength in solitude. You discover something essential. You can rely on yourself. When no one is clapping. When no one is watching. When no one is checking in. You still rise, still move, still think, still create. This is mental independence. It is rare, and it is feared. Most people are psychological beggars, desperate for attention, compliments, validation. They outsource their self-worth to others. The terrifying mind does not. You know your value. You know your direction. Carry yourself like someone who does not need the world but chooses how to engage with it. That independence radiates. It unsettles people who don't know how to live without applause. Emotional. Detachment and internal clarity. Solitude teaches emotional detachment, not numbness, but the ability to separate your reactions from the noise of the world. You don't take things personally. You don't get dragged into gossip or groupthink. You don't chase drama. This calmness is a weapon. While others spiral in anxiety or petty arguments, Your mind remains still. You have trained yourself to observe rather than react, to listen more than you speak, to question before you assume. People don't know what to make of this. They're used to emotional games. But your detachment signals a different kind of power, self-control, which is perhaps the most terrifying power of all. The silence that commands words can be used to manipulate, flatter, and deceive. But silence, real silence, can't be faked. When you are quiet and centered, people lean in. They wonder what you're thinking. They wonder what you know. They wonder why you're not rattled like everyone else. This is when you begin to radiate aura. You don't need to say much. Your presence speaks volumes. This is the paradox of the strong mind. The less it needs to prove, the more powerful it appears. Practical steps to cultivate solitude and resilient solitude is not passive. You must practice it, protect it, and use it intentionally. Here's how. Daily silence. Dedicate 30 to 60 minutes daily to complete silence. No phone, no music, just you and your thoughts. Let your mind wander, reflect, and settle. Solo walks or workouts, move your body alone. Let your mind process ideas without conversation or input. Let movement help organize chaos. Digital fasting regularly. Disconnect from social media, notifications, and news. Reclaim your attention. Train your focus. Reading philosophy or classic literature. Spend time with timeless minds. Let them challenge and elevate your thinking. Avoid fluff. Feed your depth. Selective company. Surround yourself only with people who challenge you to grow or support your vision. Cut off those who gossip, complain, or distract. Deep journaling. Ask yourself real questions. What do I fear most? What is my deepest desire? Where am I pretending? These practices don't just build clarity, they build sovereignty. The loneliness myth. The biggest fear people have around solitude is loneliness. But that fear is a lie. Loneliness comes from being disconnected from yourself, not others. Once you reconnect with your own thoughts, values, vision, you stop feeling lonely. In fact, you realize how lonely you were when you were surrounded by shallow conversation and fake smiles. In solitude, you meet yourself again. And you discover, to your surprise, that your own mind is enough. Summary: becoming the fortress solitude is not weakness. It is strength under control. Mental independence means you no longer need external validation, your silence and self-containment. Disturb others because they cannot control you. Emotional detachment gives you peace and power in chaotic environments. Daily practices of silence, reflection, and withdrawal sharpen your focus and self-mastery. Nietzsche's warning and gift. Nietzsche understood that most people will never build this fortress. They will beg for connection, drown in noise, and fear their own minds. He warned. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. But he also gave us the path forward. Solitude is not the absence of strength. It is the source of it. A terrifying mind is not loud or aggressive. It is self-contained, fully charged. It's impossible to control. You are no longer at the mercy of opinion. You are no longer easily influenced. You are now the fortress. And from that fortress, you will build the world you choose. The triumph of the will, becoming the unshakable force. You've awakened your will. You've stood in the abyss and returned. You've built discipline, mastered your habits, and forged a mind rooted in solitude and silence.
How you reach
the final stage of transformation, the triumph of the will. This is not a climax of noise or spectacle. It's not about screaming dominance or showing off power. It's quieter, deeper, and more enduring. It is the moment your internal force becomes unshakable and your very presence begins to disturb. Inspire and reshape the people around you, not through intimidation, but through clarity and conviction. This is the essence of Nietzsche's Bermensch, not a superhuman in strength or ability, but someone who has transcended the old ways of thinking, writes their own code, and lives it so completely that the world is forced to adjust around them in this final chapter. You don't just build the strong mind, you become it. The power of stillness, a terrifying mind, doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need to convince. Its power lies in its stillness, a calm so deep that it unsettles the chaos around it. Most people are reactionary. Their emotions are constantly triggered. Their moods shift with gossip, headlines, or other people's opinions, but not you. You've cultivated detachment. Your inner world no longer swings like a door in the wind. You act from principle, not pressure. You speak from depth, not desire. This stillness is rare. People can feel it. They may not understand it, but they feel it. Some are drawn to it. Others are threatened by it. Either way, it disturbs the norm, and that's the mark of a mind that terrifies, no longer needing permission. One of the most powerful moments in your mental evolution is when you realize you don't need permission, not to think a certain way, not to live a certain way, not to express yourself, not to lead. You no longer ask the world, "Am I allowed?" Instead, you declare, "This is what I've chosen." This decisiveness creates tension in the herd. The average mind needs rules and signals to act, but you decide, you define. You declare. This makes people uneasy, because the moment you stop needing permission, you stop being controllable. The new morality created, not inherited in Nietzsche's eyes. Morality was not eternal or sacred. It was a tool created by societies to control behavior, often to the benefit of the weak. He didn't suggest living without values. He demanded that you create your own. Now that your mind has been purified by solitude, discipline, and suffering, you are ready to live by your own code. This doesn't mean chaos. It means integrity, acting in alignment with your self-defined principles, even when it costs you, especially when it costs you. This kind of moral independence is unsettling to those who rely on tradition to justify their actions. Your refusal to explain yourself makes you ungovernable, and that is terrifying influence. Without control, a terrifyingly strong mind doesn't manipulate or beg to be followed. It simply is, and in being it influences. People begin to model your behavior. They admire your discipline. They mimic your calm. They crave your approval. Even if they deny it, you don't dominate through force. You dominate through presence. Your energy says, "I know who I am. I know what I want. I know where I'm going." This is the ultimate form of influence, not demanding attention, but commanding respect. Conflict without collapse. Another mark of your transformation is how you handle conflict. While most people flinch, avoid, or explode, you remain composed. You don't escalate. You don't beg. You don't submit. You hold your ground with quiet intensity. Even when others attack or misunderstand you, you remain rooted. You've trained your mind not to panic. You understand that opposition is part of the path. This level-headedness makes people fear confronting you. They sense they won't win, not because you'll outshout them, but because you won't play their game. Your presence feels like a mirror. It reflects back their weakness, insecurity, and confusion. And that's terrifying. Legacy thinking at this stage. Your mind stops living in the short term. You begin thinking in terms of legacy. You no longer chase temporary highs. You think in decades, not days. You ask, what am I building that will last? How will I be remembered? What ripple effect will my existence create? This legacy thinking gives your life depth, changes how you speak, move, and make decisions. Your time becomes sacred. Your words become deliberate. Your habits become ritual. You become someone of consequence, not just presence. You are no longer becoming you are for the first time. You realize you are no longer just on the path. You are the path. You are no longer trying to become strong. You are strong. You have the receipts, the scars, the solitude, the control. There's nothing performative left. No mask, no posturing, just truth. And this truth, lived fully, expressed calmly, becomes your greatest weapon. Not because it wounds others, because it exposes everything false around. You don't need to impress. You already embody everything they fear they aren't. Self-possessed, focused, grounded, and utterly free. Living with weight, but without fear, you now carry weight. Your words carry weight. Your decisions carry weight. You have become someone whose presence alters the dynamic of a room, and yet you live without fear. You've faced the abyss. You've stood alone. You've mastered your instincts.
Ow.
Endured rejection, loss, mockery, silence. What could frighten you now? This fearlessness is not loud. It is not reckless. It is simply real. And its presence is enough to disrupt entire systems of weak thinking and shallow living. You are not dangerous because you want to hurt others. You are dangerous because you cannot be broken. Summary. The final form stillness replaces noise. You do not react. You respond from depth. You no longer need permission. You live by self-definition. You create your own values. You do not inherit. Your morality, your presence influences silently. You do not force respect. You embody it. You handle conflict without collapse. Calm is your default. You live for legacy. Your decisions echo far beyond today. You are no longer becoming. You are. Nietzsche's completion in this final stage, Nietzsche's vision of the Bermensch, becomes real. Not a fantasy, not a metaphor, a lived reality. You are not above others because you dominate them. You are above because you transcend. What limits them? Fear, weakness, conformity. You have become self-overcoming. You shape yourself every day. You answer to your higher self. Lead with discipline, live with depth, and move with purpose. This kind of mind doesn't need to be explained. It simply walks into a room and everything else rearranges. You have become that mind, and now the world adjusts to you.